Welcome to another edition of the ODUBlitz.com football show presented by our sponsors, Lions Bridge Financial Advisors, providing investing and planning for clients throughout Hampton Roads. I'm Ed Miller, Virginian-Pilot beat writer for ODU. I'm here with Harry Minium, our columnist. And Harry, let's talk some football.
Well, last week, Ed, is going to happen this year almost always when ODU goes on the road. You flew solo. I was in Norfolk along with a lot of ODU's fans in misery trying to watch the game because we tried to watch the UMass feed and the streaming feed, and it was pretty bad. One time during the second quarter, it stopped and froze, and I hit it again, and it went back to the start of the game. So for those of us who didn't really get to see the game, tell us what happened at UMass. ODU won 17-7. How did they play? Yeah,
it was a beautiful day at UMass, by the way. It was 70 degrees, sunny, low humidity, perfect fall afternoon in New England. It was kind of a grinded out affair for ODU. They, 17 points they left some points on the board. The defense played really well. One explosive play was basically all they gave up, or they would have had their first shutout in program history. They came up with 8 sacks, which was, they had 7 the week before, so ODU with 15 sacks now actually leads the nation in that category.
And just a few years ago, they had like no sacks, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. In fact, we'll be writing a story this week about the defensive line, the rotation, the production they've been able to get up front. They don't blitz. They were able to get pressure just with 3 or 4 guys, which allows them to play coverage on the back end. But just getting back to the UMass game, Blake LaRussa was sharp in the first half, didn't complete a pass. In the second half, they went a little bit more with Jordan Hoy, who was able to move the team. They moved 94 yards to the 1-yard line of UMass, where they had a 2nd and goal from the 1. They ran it 3 straight times. They didn't get an inch. That was discouraging. But they got the ball right back, and Hoy was able to convert on a 7-yard run for a touchdown that basically was the clincher. So, good win on the road. They're 2-0. I mean, that's all you can ask for. I think they're where they want to be heading into this stretch of really tough games, starting with UNC this Saturday. And Harry, you watched UNC last week. What did you think of the Tar Heels?
Well, first let me say you're exactly right. They are where they want to be. They wanted to be 2-0 because it gets them. They're now 4 wins away from bowl eligibility, and that is, that's not their ultimate goal, but it is the ultimate goal for every FBS team. I watched Carolina lose to Louisville 47-35, and that sounds like a terrible score, but you have to remember that Louisville was the 17th ranked team in the country last week. I think they've moved up this week, and they have the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. ODU is a 10-point underdog, and if I was a betting man, I'd be betting with the Tar Heels. It's a really good team. I saw a lot of team quickness, a lot of speed. They recruited a different level than Old Dominion. The players they get are 3, 4, occasionally 5-star recruits. Old Dominion has never beaten North Carolina for a recruit, and they won't in the near future. So just think of all 85 guys on ODU's roster and a lot of kids from North Carolina. North Carolina didn't want any of them. So.
Yeah, that's always the case in these games. Generally you have, as Mickey Matthews, the JMU coach, used to say back in the day,
after beating Virginia Tech.
Right, we don't have a single player that they wanted. We don't have, and we don't. JMU didn't have a single player that wouldn't have gone, to say Virginia Tech. So yeah, it's apples and oranges, but you can level the playing field with development, with execution, things like that, and that's what ODU is obviously hoping to do.
And there's some impressions I got of Carolina just looking at their depth chart and watching them on television. Their offensive line is big. They average 6'5.5", 306 pounds. Their defensive backs had trouble covering Louisville receivers, but they're tall and they're good. Old Dominion's wide receivers are going to have a difficult time getting open. They have 2 quarterbacks, Brandon Harris, who transferred from LSU. He really looks good. Chaz Surratt, he's a redshirt freshman from the state of North Carolina. He's really good. Their running backs are not so much. They don't look real rangy, but Coach Larry Fedora runs a spread offense, and they throw the ball a lot. They play hurry up a lot. The two quarterbacks combined to complete 29 of 38 passes for 384 yards against a pretty good Louisville defense. Kick returner Anthony Ratliff Williams, 199 yards in kickoff returns. They have a great punter, great place kicker. Wide receiver Austin Prohl had 8 catches. This is a good football team. They're 0-2. And that is not to Old Dominion's advantage. You know, Old Dominion really wanted North Carolina to come in here 1-1 or 2-0 because at 0-2, they've been embarrassed. The media in North Carolina is second-guessing their defensive coordinator. You know, one guy wrote, "This is the kind of defense that gets coaches fired." So they're going to be, speaking of fired, they're going to be fired up Saturday. They need a win. They may need to beat ODU to go to a bowl game.
Absolutely. So. Larry Fedora has not been a happy camper from what I've been able to read and from what I've heard from him. Their defense has been their biggest problem. They're among the worst statistical teams in the Power 5, giving up 587 yards a game, 41 points. But again, you know, they're playing the Heisman Trophy winner Lamar Jackson, who I was able to see when I was covering Virginia, just a really special player. Obviously, he's the Heisman winner, but a guy that can really make a huge difference. So
he'll be in the NFL next year.
Yeah, ODU's going to have its hands full with him for sure.
And ODU
Not
is
with him, with Carolina.
With Carolina, yeah. ODU has some injuries. Bring us up to date on who's not going to play and who might play. Who was actually at practice today?
Yeah. Well, the big injury news of the week was Jonathan Duhart, who is arguably. You may say Ray Lowry, maybe their best offensive player, an NFL prospect, wide receiver. He broke his foot against UMass. He's done for the year. They think he's going to apply for a medical red shirt. So that's a big loss there on the outside.
Yeah.
Duhart is just a big physical receiver. He can go up and get the ball. You know, again, he puts a lot of pressure. They like to throw it up to him. They like to throw it up to Travis Fulgham. Blake LaRussa says whenever they get that matchup, they want to exploit it. So that's going away. That's a problem for the Monarchs. Melvin Vaughn, who hasn't played this year, another receiver / tight end. He's going to have minor knee surgery. It's always minor if it's someone else's surgery, of course.
That's right.
But he won't be playing in the near future. Chad Hendricks, the right tackle, we saw him at practice today. Also having a knee MRI, doesn't look good just from my...
And in a Carolina blue shirt, by the way.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't look good either.
Yeah.
But so Chad Hendricks, I would expect done for quite a while. Offensive line is not a position where they're very deep.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, Ray Lowry, the mystery guy who hasn't played since the first quarter of the Albany game after he ran for a 41-yard touchdown. Tweaked his hamstring. Ray was on the trip last week. He warmed up. I saw him out there, was watching closely as he went through some drills. He looked pretty good to my untrained eye. He came out to stretch with the team wearing his uniform. They went back in for the national anthem, that kind of stuff. They come out with about 10 minutes to play. Ray's out of his pad. So Bobby Wilder made the call that Ray would not play. They want him at 100%. So haven't seen Ray at practice this week. He hasn't been there very much. And, you know, asked Bobby Wilder today point blank, and Bobby said he was still confident that Ray will play. So
I had to ask him to repeat it because I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. Obviously, without Ray, that's a whole different ball game. But we'll see what happens. But right now, we're going to take a short break so we can hear from our sponsors.
You embody dedication, sacrifice, and commitment. You are an elite athlete. You know the difference superior coaching makes. Lionsbridge Financial Advisors is here to be your financial coach. We'll help you pack for your athletic journey by gathering a complete picture of where you are and where you want to go, and by working with other trusted professionals on your behalf.
Harry, Bobby Wilder talked about playing North Carolina and kind of put it in perspective. Their first opponent was also a school from North Carolina, but in a whole different universe of college football. No disrespect to Chowan, which is a Division II team. I think they were still Division II at the time, 9 years ago. They just moved to the CIAA. But, you know, this is their 100th game in program history. It just happens to be a coincidence, quite a milestone. how far is it? You've been here for a lot of that. How far has ODU come to be playing a game like this?
Well, I was there for the very first game against Chowan, and as Bobby, I'm writing a column about this for this weekend, and as Bobby Wilder said this morning, they had no idea how they were going to play. They had recruited. They had 2 recruiting classes. They had practiced for 1 season. They had no idea whether they could line up and actually play against a real team, and they struggled against Chowan, and they won that game. The thing that struck me about Old Dominion in that first game was that I was standing outside Webb Center as they're doing their Monarch walk, and they're doing high fives with fans, and they're all walking by, and all the guys are walking by. They're looking at me eye level, and I'm 5'9" on a good day, so that was a really small team.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, from 2009 to 2017, they've gone from playing Chowan to the University of North Carolina at home. I mean, not on the road, but actually hosting a team at home. This is the University of North Carolina, the Tar Heels. With all due respect to NC State, who they hosted 2 years ago, this is the biggest home game Old Dominion has ever hosted. And it's for those of us who follow the program. Sometimes we don't appreciate how far they've come in a short time. From 2009 to 2017 is not that long a time,
right?
And they've come a long way.
Yeah, this is Chapel Hill, North Carolina. This is the University of North Carolina. My part of that game, I wasn't at the opener because I can't remember what I was covering in those days. I think it might have been Virginia. I can't remember. But I did go down to Murfreesboro, North Carolina, to do a story on Chowan and their role in the ODU football saga. They were supposed to be it was Thanksgiving and they were the turkey, basically.
They're the cannon fodder.
Right.
Yes.
And it was, it was interesting to go down there and just see their coaches were working out of, were basically portables, like trailers. Had a lot of kids on the team. It was just a whole different ball game, and ODU was able to get that win. And then the following week, Virginia Union, and boom, then they're off and running.
And they went 9-2 that year. It was very, very smart scheduling on Old Dominion's part that year. They scheduled a lot of Division IIs, a lot of non-scholarship Division I schools. I believe they beat VMI the last game of the regular season. It was a close game. By then they were, they had 10 games under their belt. So that was, that was an interesting year. The most surprising thing about the game this week to me has been ticket sales. It's Wednesday afternoon when we're filming this, and the game has not sold out. And and from what I hear from ODU, Carolina sold out its allotment to that. Well, 1,500 tickets plus their 500 comps.
I wonder if it's a little sticker shock. $50 is the highest ticket price they've had for a home game.
By far the highest.
Yeah, if this game is on TV, old-fashioned, you can watch it on your TV if you want. You don't have to go searching and find it on a stream somewhere. So, I think it'll sell out.
It will, but it's still stunning to me that it hasn't sold out yet. I mean, I'll talk to some fans when I'm at the game and maybe try and get a handle on as to why. But $50 tickets that. This is, as Dave Rosenfield used to say, a hamburger hot dog market. That may be it.
One of our editors used to say that too. We're a hamburger market. And I think that's held true.
So Ed, you did Conference USA power ratings this week. What were the changes? And by the way, if you want to see Ed's power ratings or anything else we've written about ODU football forever, go to odublitz.com. So Ed.
Yeah, we had some movement this week. This is a hard time of year to get a handle on what's going on. You've got teams
they're all playing non-conference.
They're playing different non-conference races. There was a conference game last week, and there's another one coming up this week. But for the most part, you got some teams that are playing P5s. You got some teams that are playing FCS, and maybe another group of 5 teams. So it's apples and oranges. Having said that, I moved Middle Tennessee up because they beat Syracuse on the road, and it's a pretty good win. Maybe the best win by a team in the league this year.
I think definitely. I agree. You're right.
Western Kentucky, who had been number 1, they kind of didn't do so well at Illinois, where they were favored, actually.
Yeah.
Their offense, which is supposed to be this high-powered unit, really sputtered. Old Dominion is holding in at 3rd place. UTSA, speaking of good wins, who just knocked off Baylor. That was their first game of the year because they had some complications with Hurricane Harvey, their first game. So they're at 4. Louisiana Tech, who had a 3rd and goal from their own 7.
Funniest play I've seen this year.
I didn't see it. I still haven't seen it. I've read about it, but that told you what kind of day they had when they were at Mississippi State. Didn't go well. No, they were hosting Mississippi State. Excuse me. Didn't go well.
And they fumbled, and the ball just got kicked.
I guess
back
it was like a
back
Benny Hill, skid or something. Yeah. And then we got Southern Miss, Marshall, North Texas at 8. The bottom 5 or 6, again, Rice had a nice win over UTEP. Yeah. Rice, who I think people, Rice had a hard couple weeks also. They were in Australia. Obviously, they couldn't get back to Houston after Hurricane Harvey. So nice to see Rice get a payoff there. And speaking of tough weather, FIU, FAU, who are 10 and 11, are both, as we tape this, I think, still unable to get back to South Florida. Yeah. FIU went to Birmingham, Alabama to play its game, and FAU was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're still at Wisconsin from what I hear.
And FIU has already canceled its trip to Indiana for this week's game because obviously they can't get home. They can't get out there. They probably won't be able to practice. I don't know. FAU against Bethune, as far as I know, they're still planning to play it, but that could change any time. And then rounding out the bottom 3, we have UAB, who's got a winnable game this week against Coastal Carolina, I think. Yeah. And then UTEP and Charlotte. Somebody's got to be bringing up the basement right now.
I think Charlotte's the right
team. The 49ers, who have a game that's not a gimme against North Carolina A&T. So those are some of the interesting games, I think. Looking at the other games, we've also got
Louisiana Tech at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, that's the rematch of the title game. Yeah,
we'll find out whether the Hilltoppers are really any good, because Louisiana Tech, in spite of that loss to Mississippi State, I think they're a pretty good team. And I've thought, just looking at Western Kentucky and what they lost at graduation, they lost a lot of good players. They've got a great quarterback back, but they lost a lot of great players, and they had a head coaching change.
Right.
And yet everyone thinks they're going to, just written them in as winning the league. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think that division is fairly open. Old Dominion's in there, middle. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. And
Coastal Carolina at UAB, what kind of crowd do they draw for the second game at UAB?
That's the big
test. They had 45,000 2 weeks ago. And Coastal Carolina is a beatable team. It's one of the teams on the schedule UAB could beat.
Ask UMass, though. They didn't beat them.
Yes, that's true.
UMass
Coastal beat them pretty good.
Right.
North Carolina A&T at Charlotte. Interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a FCS, FBS, but A&T is won the MEAC, I believe, and they're pretty good. They're a top 20 team. And as you know very well, the Charlotte quarterback is an A&T transfer.
Hassan Klu, I think I'm pronouncing. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. He's a good quarterback, but the A&T is going to be up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll be happy to see their old quarterback, I'm sure.
Rice at Houston. That to me, because Hurricane Harvey and all that, it's just going to be an emotional game for both teams. That Houston's a 22.5 point favorite. Rice probably won't win, but these teams rarely play, even though they're just a few miles apart. It's nice that they're playing. And ODU at North Carolina.
Yeah. That's right. That's a good game too. Yeah.
I think the Heels will win. I think ODU could keep it close, but I don't think so. My prediction: UNC 31, ODU 13.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Harry. I'm in that ballpark. I think we were just talking before we came over here, and I said 31-14, and not knowing that you said 31-13. I think the issue with ODU is just the offense. This could, in another year with maybe without these injuries, and if the quarterbacks were a little more experienced, there were some opportunities against the Carolina defense that doesn't look that good, at least against the teams they've played. Yeah. And as good as ODU's defense is, I don't know if they can hold them. Carolina's averaging 32.5 points a game. So if they get right around there, I think it could be, again, ODU's got to take some chances. They got to have some turnovers. Some things have to go their way. They'll be hoping the crowd will be really into it.
Yeah.
So there's some factors there, and if it's these kind of games, you want to be in it late. You want to keep it, if they got a chance in the fourth quarter, I think they'll be happy.
That's all Bobby Wilder says he wants when he plays a Power 5 school. If we're in it when the fourth quarter begins, it's a success. And he's right, because Old Dominion should never be an ACC team when it comes down to talent and resources and everything else. And if they can come close, that they wouldn't agree with this. I think it's a moral victory for them. But eventually they're going to, they're 0-7 against Power 5 teams. Eventually they need to beat one.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you've got a couple teams winning this week. Middle Tennessee or winning last week, and then UTSA. Now you could say they weren't. Maybe the teams they were playing weren't quite, ACC caliber teams. Baylor I think is a little bit down. Of course, Syracuse is in the ACC, but I'm not sure the jury's out on them. So we'll see. But that's it should be fun. We're looking forward to the game, and I hope you'll read our coverage at pilotonline.com, at odublitz.com. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. Thanks for watching the odublitz.com football show, which is presented by our sponsors, Lions Bridge Financial Advisors, providing investing and planning for clients throughout the Hampton Roads area. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to respond. We hope you follow us at odublitz.com and read our coverage at pilotonline.com.
We'll see you next week.